Good morning, everybody in Facebook and YouTube land. This is Merritt with Master of One Coaching, and I am joined here by my dear friend and amazing, super inspiring entrepreneur, Tim McQueen. Hi, Tim.
Hey, how you doing, Merritt? Everybody out there?
It's good to see you this morning. It is a blustery and snowy day again here in the Northeast. Good Lord, it keeps coming.
Right.
And I'm going to let this just roll for us just a few minutes or a couple minutes to make sure that we have people who can find us here, because I've let people know where we are on various channels, and sometimes it takes a minute. But I see Ari Sweets has already joined us, saying good morning. I'll put that comment up. Thanks, Ari. Nice to see you. Oh, it looks like Sweets as in sugar. Yay! Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I see NK Chung is also here. Good morning, NK. Great photo. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here. So I'm going to go ahead and let you all know that I do check the chat in the Facebook feed for questions or comments. So if you have a question for Tim that you'd like me to pose to him while we're here live, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'll try to get to everybody if I can. If we don't have comments, that's okay too. We can just, because we have a lot to talk about. And Tim and I were just talking right before we went on this morning about how we could talk for hours about all of our shared passions and all of his incredible work that he's doing out there in the world. So why don't we go ahead and get started if you're ready?
Sure.
Okay, great. So once again, I'm here. This is Merritt with Master of One Coaching. This is my dear friend and amazing entrepreneur, Tim McQueen. And I'm here showcasing him today because he does such incredible work in the world, in our region, and has so many amazing stories to share. So first things first, can you tell us a little bit about who you are for the two people out there in the Hudson Valley that don't know you yet, and the rest of the world where this is being, hopefully being seen outside of our region.
Absolutely.
Tell us about who you are and share a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Thanks so much. Again, my name is Tim McQueen. I'm a Poughkeepsie, New York native. I was born right in Vassar Brothers Hospital, and raised here for the majority, pretty much all of my 43 years. I come from a faith-based background. My grandmother was a local pastor. My grandfather, he actually was a deacon in the church, and he was a pretty astute entrepreneur. He did some upholstery work and some, just some regular everyday handiwork, and that's where I really got my strong sense of entrepreneurship and resilience from those two. I was either going to church 6 days a week or being up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with my grandfather talking about business and watching CNN. So here I am.
So you got the code early.
Right. So then from there, my path towards music started from church. As a funny story, my grandmother would always say, "You can't tell me you want to do something without showing me." So I always said I wanted to play drums. I had, a drum set, little paper drum set when I was little, and I would always make so much noise. So one day we had a small like storefront church, and we didn't have a drum set, but we had a trap door to the basement with a rug over it, and I had like one rinky-dink drum and like a half a cymbal. So I would literally play that like it was a whole drum set. Like I would use the trap door like it was a bass drum. It was crazy. But my grandmother saw that I didn't care how it looked. I didn't care how people felt. I wanted to show that I could play. So she went out one day and she surprised me and brought me like the top of the line drum set. And she was
awesome.
Now you have no choice but to really learn how to play and to really get out there. And I kind of carried that with me. So moving forward, I, started playing in church and then playing also in bands. I got around 19, 20 and formed a little rap group. Don't tell anybody. And I figured out early that rappers were trying to get deals, but producers were getting paid now. So I went the producer route and I started learning how to produce in a There was a guy that lived in the housing development where I was at, who was a producer who had a lot of links to New York City, and he kind of, um, in all regards, took me under his wing. He brought me to different events in New York City, showed me people, taught me some of the business, and I learned. So then I started creating my own network. I did some tracks with some music industry companies and different artists. And then right around 2000, I'd say around 2005, six, I started saying, okay, I want to start focusing more back on home. I started noticing that the music industry was changing and the way music was delivered and the way artists were being selected was changing. Now it was more the industry was coming looking for you. So I never had a commercial studio. I came back to Poughkeepsie. I purchased a lease in a commercial studio. Um, we had some pretty legendary times in there. I brought up some prominent artists. Some members of Wu Tang came up. There was some. We did some concerts with a few different top 10 at the time artists. Then I started doing some promotion, doing events, managing artists, and it was like snowballing to where there was starting to be regionally some buzz for what we were doing. Um, but then that still wasn't it. So I said, there's still more to it. I connected with Linda Marston Reed through just looking out the door of my studio into Arts Mid Hudson, into I'm sorry, the Mid Hudson Heritage Center, the Heritage Center, which was right across the street from my studio. And I used to always see all these cool looking older white people going in this little space. I'm like, what are they doing? So one day I just went over there and I was like, what are you guys doing? And Linda greeted me and she was like, this is an art gallery. These are, different artists. So I was like, well, I'm an artist. So she was like, well, we have some wine over there. Get it acclimated to everybody. So that was my journey into the art scene in Poughkeepsie. So some years went by. Me and Linda started working close together. We worked on something called Queen City Saturdays, and that blossomed into honestly what we know now as First Friday. So I was doing that kind of work, and then I was like, okay, this is cool. Now I've got a connection with the community. I've got my resources and network from the music industry, but this still isn't it. So moving forward, some more. I started managing some DJs. I started managing some talent, producing some music, some more, and then I actually happened to go by the local high school for the winter concert. It was the winter concert, and I'm a musician and I played in school, so I know how exciting that always is to have like your friends and family come out. Usually, when I was in school, it used to be packed. So I went, and it was only like 40 people in the audience. And these kids are playing phenomenal, and I was with a couple friends, and I was like heartbroken. So I said I have to talk to these kids and I have to fix this. And one of my friends, Gully Sanford, he was like, so what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. So I went up to the kids after the concert and I said, I know you guys don't know me, but we're going to fix this. We're going to make sure that your whole area knows who you are. And we're going to find some resources so you can get paid now, because I know you're all like graduating. You're at the cusp. So then from there.
Can I stop you for a second there, Tim?
Sure.
That is an amazing part of your story that I actually hadn't heard before, where you just made the decision to go. What do you think was driving you in that moment? I mean, you said you were heartbroken. You understood their passion. What went off in your brain or your heart or your soul that said, I need to go make this decision now? Like, what was that moment for you like?
Sure. What it was what I've always known to be the best way to fix something is to meet it head on. And I felt there was no one standing in the gap for these kids. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like. But going back again to my earlier experiences with myself when I didn't have a drum set, but I was still going to keep, you know, making noise. And my grandmother stood in the gap and said, okay,
Mm.
all you need is someone to help get you to that next level. You know, I don't know what's going to happen from there, but if you put the effort forward, I'll meet you with the resources. And that's what touched me. I said, I have to figure out a way to help provide resources for these kids to be seen, heard, and further their careers.
Just got chills. Like that I love what you just said about how you connected it to when your grandmother, and as you're saying, standing in the gap, like your grandmother did that for you, and how that through line has like carried for you all through your life now. Yeah. Oh, that's really emotional. That was amazing. I'm just gonna reset the room real quick for those. We had a few people who are just tuning in now. So thank you so much for coming, everybody. My name is Merritt with Master of One Coaching, and I'm here today with my dear friend and amazing social entrepreneur extraordinaire and virtuoso, Tim McQueen. Thank you so much again for joining us, Tim, and hello again, everybody who are just tuning in. So we're talking about how, I'm going to use your phrase, standing in the gap, how the power of seeing the opportunity to stand in the gap for somebody else, and how we can, as you said, meet a problem head on. It seemed like that was a seamless decision for you.
Absolutely. No thought involved at all. It was more, and it was funny because just it really goes into almost a spiritual realm where, again, I grew up in church, and one of the scriptures says all you have to have is like faith of a mustard seed. Because literally after that, I'd never managed a band before. I played, in school, but never a professional band. I didn't know anything about permission slips or how this was going to work or anything. And next thing I know, again, one of my friends, Gully, he calls me, and he's convened like half of all the stakeholders in Dutchess County to talk about this fantastic band that I don't even have a member of yet. So now I had no choice because I had already written the $1 million check that I had to now go cash for these kids. So that was a very integral part of my journey, which led to a lot of the other things that I'm doing now. I was doing a lot of work with Hudson River Housing and um, a lot of other community-based nonprofits in the area. So subsequently, I ended up taking a board position based on a lot of that work with Hudson River Housing, with the band and in the community, and that has kind of spiraled into a whirlwind of things. I've now developed a property development company, and I'm looking to provide what is called naturally occurring affordable housing. So that's something where people now can have access to resources and also provide for themselves. So it's really that instead of asking for a seat at the table, we're more saying, show us where the forest is and we'll make our own. So
Yeah.
really happy about that.
Amazing. I want to bring up a couple of comments here. So my friend Julie, who is another person who is a hardcore advocate up there, our neighbors to the north. She's up there in Canada, Nova Scotia, and she's cheering you on from up there. She's a kindred spirit. You all should get together actually at some point, because I think you all would enjoy each other. But she says, standing in the gap, keep making noise. And Tim, amazing. So those
Thank you so much.
She's great. And then Lucia is joining us as well, and another person who I think you should meet. And Lucia said that she loves that faith drives your passion.
Thank you.
I know that was for her as well. Yeah. So speaking of passion, thank you for that segue, Lucia. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about your passion. We talked about standing in the gap and how your passion for music has driven you to then take stands for all kinds of community initiatives. And you mentioned Linda Marston-Reed, who, for those of you who don't know, again, the two people in the region who don't know who Linda is, and the rest of you who are outside the region may not know. Linda is the executive director of Arts Mid-Hudson, which is our regional arts council here for Dutchess and Ulster County. There we go. And that's how you and I met, because I did work with them for a while. And And so talk to us a little bit more about the passion as it specifically relates to some of the initiatives that you are involved in right now. And is it okay if we start to talk about specific ones right now?
Sure,
So
absolutely.
one thing is Path to Promise. So talk a little bit about Path to Promise and then how your passion connects to Path to Promise.
Sure. Path to Promise is a county initiative that I came to know about a little over a year ago, probably about 15 months or so ago, and it's a great initiative that's all about empowering the youth. Um, I was asked by County Executive Molinaro to assist the program, and subsequently, the county ended up commissioning myself to produce a song and the band Ilharmonic to sing it, and which would be like a theme song for the initiative. The initiative it consists of different modules where kids have um, interactions with local professionals and businesses and express their ideas and think tank, and it's really really good because me being African American and coming from a region and also a city that has historically been a little bit divided.
A lot of it.
um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's great to see initiatives that are specifically targeting um, children and youth that all they need is someone to just unearth the brilliance that they have inside of them. And at a county level, I believe it's great because now it's showing, again, me being African American, I definitely have a deep love and passion for making sure that my community being is it has an opportunity to create a table. But
Mm-hmm.
I also want the community of whole to understand that we are all Dutchess County. We're all Poughkeepsie. We're all Newburgh. We're all, so I want to highlight the work with Path to Promise because now there's there's a lot of displacement going on. There's a lot of, gentrification. There's a lot of relocation, people coming up. But I'm really a stickler for culture. And the culture that I grew up with, of course, things change. But my passion in that regard is to make sure that these kids understand that you have an identity, you have a culture, and you have a voice.
Mm-hmm. A stickler for culture. I love that. You and I should really share that. And the way we apply it is a little bit different, but I think culture is everything, right?
Mhm.
It's about where people share their voices,
Mhm.
where we connect together.
Mhm.
It's where we bring our different perspectives and we bring our individual cultures, right? Whether the roles we play
Mhm.
in our lives, the relationships we have, our histories, our ancestry. And
Mhm.
then every time we enter a room
Mhm.
or space, right? A
Mhm.
development space, we're creating a new culture for that
Mhm.
together,
Mhm.
which I think is something that you are so great at. I mean, I know you grew up here. A lot of people grew up here and don't have the network that you've built. And it's hard to go anywhere in any sort of space where people are talking about development, growth, culture, bringing people together, collaboration, music, art, where they don't know who you are.
Thank you.
because you have not just a passion, but you also have decided that that's part of your mission is to stand in that gap for all of those realms, right? Not just one,
Right.
but you pick so many, and you see the intersectionality between each of them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I said, we could talk for hours. This is awesome. Okay, so passion and for youth, Path to Promise, and for culture and for community. You mentioned Ilharmonic, which is the band that you've worked with and promote and produce, right? As well, yeah. And we're all people under 25 or 20. What's the age
Yeah.
there?
We scout, um, select, accept, all from around 11th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the thing is, the unique thing about Ilharmonic, the name itself, it's a nod to Nas, which is a rap artist. His first album, when he was, I believe, 15, when he came out, his first album was called Ilharmonic. I mean, not Ilharmonic, excuse me, Illmatic. And he was like a virtuoso prodigy that just exploded onto the scene, and there was like no containing it in hip hop. So that's where the ill comes from, and
Mhm.
then the harmonic part comes from like um, it's like a play off of like the Philharmonic, like New York
Mhm.
Philharmonic tops, but the the twist in it is that these kids, they might graduate and go on from high school, but they're still a part of the program. So you might go on to be a professional singer, professional musician, or whatever may have you in the music industry, but you still always have a place. You can always come back and perform. You can come back for tutelage for the kids, mentorship. So it's really more like creating a family.
Mhm.
Because for me, it has to be interwoven like that. It's not really just to showcase your talent when you're a child and then there's no give back drawn in. I specifically wanted it to be pretty much like an alumni house. So now they're creating their own network where if there's a 17-year-old who's a phenomenal bass player, and I was in Ilharmonic when I was 17, but now I'm 28 and I'm going on tour with Ariana Grande or whoever, I can pull that kid up. So it creates an automatic loop. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
our goal.
I love that. I love that. So Amy is joining us from the far reaches of Ulster County today, and she had a question for you, which is I think you talked about a little bit, but I'm going to just bring it up for you so you can address it again if you don't mind. And she asks, first she says, "We are all made for more, and I love what you're doing and your courage to step up and help. Did you ever think that this is something you would be doing when you were younger?" So, and I think she means sort of the
What-
community piece of it. Yeah.
Um, to be honest, I don't know if I even really had a choice. Um, for a couple reasons. I I it was so ingrained in me to in in no way do I take any kind of self credit for this because it was really so ingrained in me from my grandparents and my mom. Um, Servitude is no different than saying hello in the morning. It's
Mm.
just a part of you know how I was reared. So did I think that I would be doing what I'm doing now? Possibly not, but I knew that it would be in some form. It's just it's just a part of who I am. Um, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine a while ago, and I was like, all this stuff is snowballing so fast. Like I'm like everybody's calling for me here, there, whatever. And she said to me, she said, it's because you put the desire once you put the needs of other people ahead of your personal desires, then everything comes to you because now the universe sees that your intention isn't just personal, it's
Mhm.
for the greater good. And i I don't know, I'm not that zenful, so I don't know exactly what all of that means, but I think there's some truth in that. So here we are.
Love it. I mean, there's so many different versions of that concept that you just talked about, right? There is certainly all kinds of biblical support, right, for what you're talking about with Old and New Testament. There is all kinds of metaphysical support for it. There is, I mean, across religions, you'll hear, right, given
Mhm,
you shall receive, law
mhm,
of attraction, right?
mhm.
All of this stuff is this same different ways of saying the same thing, which is that when we put ourselves out there in the world, we'll get more in return, right?
Mhm.
And to make that the giving of it is not so that we will get more in return, but it is really that service. I love what you said about servitude or service being no different than saying hello in the morning. You dropped like 15 golden nuggets already, so I was going to ask you for one, but I'm not sure if I can. I mean, I could always. We have so many already. Um, one more thing that I think you wanted to mention today, and you have so many projects that you're involved in, which is another reason why I love getting together with you, because there's just the creativity and the energy. It has no bounds with you. But McQueen and Associates is sort of the latest incarnation of all this work. So if you don't mind just touching on that a little bit.
Sure. McQueen and Associates is my development company and consulting, where basically that houses pretty much a good, I'd say 60% of what I'm doing right now. I'm really excited to be working on a joint venture project. Um, I'm going to be working with one of the larger developers around in the area, Hudson River Housing. We're going to be purchasing a we're purchasing a piece of property that we're going to use for mixed use. So one half of the building is going to be for residential housing for marginalized and underserved youth between the ages of 18 to 25, and the other half is going to be commercial space that is going to house something that I'm also excited about called Mix Academy, which is the nonprofit and educational vocational arm of Ilharmonic, where we're going to be teaching kids coding, tech, esports, social media marketing, podcasting. So it's going to be like an incubation and entrepreneurship hub where we're also going to link them with venture capitalists. So if these kids come up with some really cool next wave ideas and it makes sense for the business people that are going to be tuned in, we can create a young slew of millionaires. And that's that is kind of like a culmination of a lot of the work that I've been doing. And to have it all housed and physically see it moving around is just this it's exciting for me. It's almost like creating a light machine.
Imagine that, a light machine. That's a reference to a vision that you had a couple of years ago about what you're creating in the world that you and I worked on together. And so that's my nickname for Tim now, is Tim McQueen Light Machine. And I love that project. I actually have some ideas and some connections for you about that project. And so I'd love to check in with you about that when we're done with this. But go check that out. I think you can go see that right online. The 54 Noxon. So it's 54 Noxon, 54 Noxon, which is Noxon. Is that Poughkeepsie or Arlington or Poughkeepsie? Okay. Awesome. Incredible project. So such a beautiful and inspiring, like I actually got a little teary because I'm a geek about this stuff when you're talking about it, but a culmination of social justice, wealth building, education, entrepreneurship, like just amazing. I love it's just you're speaking my language. Awesome. All right. So in our last couple of minutes here, and we have a couple of new people who have joined us. So I'm going to say, just reset the room again one more time. I'm talking to my dear friend, an amazing entrepreneur, musician, producer, Renaissance man extraordinaire, Tim McQueen, who is not only a leader in his many industries now, but also in our community and the region at large. And I expect is going to be ruling the world not too long from now. Thank you so much again for joining us here today. And I would like to ask if you could find one piece of wisdom that you want to leave us with today, what would that be? And there's just so many. If you've been taking notes today, or if you haven't, go back and watch the replay when I upload it in a few days. You'll find more than one. But if you can find one, what would that be?
Well, I guess one thing that I would definitely want to drive home to everyone listening, and also myself, is that you always have to believe in yourself, no matter how many times that you hear it over and over again. It is probably one of the most baseline causes for everything that we see. My grandfather used to always tell me that everything that you see, including you, started in the mind of someone, somewhere. And I understand that differently now because self ego and self belief are two different things. And believing in yourself means that every breath that you take is intentional, every thought that you have is intentional, and you're blueprinting your future in your existence, not just in your mind, but you're walking in it. And I encourage everyone to believe in themselves. That's all I got.
I love what you just said about ego and self-belief are two different things, right? Believing in yourself is about vocation. It's about calling. It's about why we're here, right? Ego is about feeding what I need, and then ego is going to be hungry, right? If you allow it to, it's always starving and it's always going to want more, right? But when you're aligned with your calling, your mission, your vocation, it's a never ending font of inspiration and direction, inner direction, right? Which is a very different thing. It wants to be fed in a way that's giving and not just,
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. And so a couple of people just real quick have said, let's see. Some people say good morning. Jonathan Howard, who joins me often, says hello. He's a social media guru. He likes that I reset the room a la Clubhouse, which is they do it on And Roger Connor, I'll bring him up here, says fantastic initiatives, Tim McQueen. Your positive energy is always motivating. Keep it up. I agree, Roger, 100%.
Thank you so much, Roger.
And so before we go here, how can people get in touch with you? I mean, you're such an amazing connector. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Sure. Well, there's a couple ways. My Facebook is just my name, Tim McQueen, and it's my real name, even though no one believes me.
You're like Lightning McQueen. I just made that connection just now. The Light Machine McQueen. Okay.
Hey, so my Instagram is T_McQueen_. And any more questions about any of the projects I have going on, you can email me at contact.mcqueen.associates@gmail.
Contact.mcqueen.associates@gmail. Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much again, my friend, for joining us today. It is always a pleasure. I think there's much more of this in the future.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to say really quick, though, if I could, before I go. There's a piece of this that you didn't touch on, and I want everybody to hear this as well, because it's not really put out there as much. But Merritt has been very instrumental in a lot of the steps in my journey as well. She was there and had an ear when I would be losing my mind, not understanding, and what you're doing with this platform and this program is amazing. And I just want to give you your kudos. Thank you for having me. I feel humbled that you would even want a little old me on here. And it's just amazing. And I'm really glad to be a part of it in its inception before you go on and take over the world.
Yeah, well, hand in hand, my friend. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm only as good as the people that I work with. So I really appreciate that. And if anybody has interest in finding out more about Master of One coaching, I have a free download leadership journal, which could help you start your journey or continue to more intentional journey of leadership. masterofonecoaching.com. Check out that free download, get on our mailing list. And I appreciate the plug there. So thank you again. As I said before, I will be happy to upload this once we get it edited. We'll put it out there in a few days in the full version on YouTube and back on Facebook. And then you'll see it in smaller incarnations in the coming weeks. And please come back. Please come back and tell us.
Absolutely. As soon as you'll have me.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Friday, and we'll see you soon. Take care.